Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Ossie. Fancy seeing you here.
I know, crazy. How's that happened? How are you?
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
Nice. That's what we like to hear.
All good over here. Are you looking forward?
I am as pumped as I've
I'm not going to lie. I think there's a bit of a delay.
Oh, really?
Woo!
Like how much?
Yeah.
Well,
this is
my own test.
It might be.
When
quite
I
funny.
clap, I'm going to clap and I'm going to see how long. You need to like say hello at the same time I clap.
Yeah.
We'll see what this is going to be like. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hello.
Oh my. That's like over 10 seconds. Oh, wow. Okay. That's going to be interesting.
Okay, well, Ossie, I'll just pass it over to you.
Fantastic.
You show us what we're doing today.
Okay, so today I'm going to be showing you to do a curry as well as some baked onion bhajis and some rice at the same time. So kind of a whole meal in of itself. I want to show you that curry is not something to be overly afraid of and that there's a huge amount of leeway. We posted the recipe a couple of days ago. I think Rosa did on your channels and stuff, which is using tender stem broccoli to make a delicious like veggie, and it's also a vegan curry. In the spirit of showing just how adaptable curries can be and how you don't need to be fearful of them, I don't have tender stem broccoli, so I'm going to be using some alternatives and talking you through them and what to do if you don't have everything you need and how you can kind of wing it a bit. And we're going to make some onion bhajis, which are baked, so a lot healthier than the deep fried ones, just as delicious. And hopefully, again, do it all in a super speedy time frame. So easy enough for you guys to do during dinner time. Yeah. And now we have to wait for the delay. It's such a long delay.
Amazing.
Right. So, yeah, there is a massive delay between myself and Rosa. So I'm kind of having one-sided. We're both having one-sided conversations for a bit. So don't be alarmed if it's a bit slower in that sense. But if you want to take us over to the Aussie can.
Yes.
Amazing. Cool, we're here. So I'm going to start with making a sauce for the curry. 3 components that are in most of these similar dishes that start off on the base: onions, garlic, and root ginger. So we want to cut up our onions and get some nice color on them, get them roasting in the pan, as well as the garlic and the ginger. These are what's going to be known as the aromats, or the base of your curry. They're going to add an unbelievable amount of flavor. You definitely don't want to skimp on these. I've put in the recipe the amount that you should use, but honestly, use as much as you want, because you can't really overdo it, I don't think. So it's like peeling up onions here, which takes a bit of a while, but there you go. So I want to see, is this satellite delay still here? Is it still taking forever for me to?
Well, let's see.
Yeah, it definitely is 100%.
Ossie, I really love ginger as a ginger person.
As a ginger person, you love ginger. Very nice.
Indeed.
Nice. Yeah, that's crazy. Oh my god, the delay is throwing me off so much.
If you could only eat ginger or garlic for the rest of your life, what one would you?
100% garlic. I couldn't do without garlic. I wonder if
we have a comment.
Is the delay as bad for everyone in the comments as much as for me?
Who knows? We'll just have to roll with it. We've got a really funny comment though, so this can bring us together. Helen says that she feels so disappointed in herself. watching this and eating a peanut butter and jam wrap.
Nice.
Clearly, she is not living up to the LJY culinary level that we are at.
Nah, that's nothing
Are you
wrong,
a fan of peanut butter and jam?
I understand why it works on paper, and it's okay. I think like a lot of people go absolutely mad over about it, and I don't really get the appeal of it hugely. I mean, it's okay. It's not like the most amazing thing I've ever had.
I don't think it constitutes for a proper dinner, Helen.
Yeah, it might be worth getting something a bit more nutritious
for a proper dinner, Helen. So I think you should join us in making this. Yeah, for sure.
So at the moment, just slicing the onions.
What about onions or garlic, though?
Oh, that's a tricky question. To be honest, I've never had a dish that has just had onion where I couldn't have thought, you know what, this is fine just as it is. Like, I think garlic has just underpinned so much flavor. But like, I've had dishes which are like based on garlic,
onionless dishes.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of the basic Italian stuff doesn't really have onion, or might not have onions, but always has garlic. A lot of Chinese food, especially, uses a lot of garlic and ginger, but not too much onion. As much as I love onion, I think cuisine without garlic is pretty. I don't know. I'd rather have garlic than not. I think at all costs.
Yeah, I think I agree. My ancestors, when my granddad came over to England as a refugee, from Egypt, they actually brought with them loads of onion and garlic because they were scared England wouldn't have it, and it was a necessity. And apparently, it smelt so bad on this boat for many days.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think that sums up my relationship with onion and garlic. It's like in my blood.
I mean, the Queen very famously is not a fan of onions and garlic, which I don't really understand.
Are you serious?
100%. It's quite well known that she.
When did we find that out?
It's just something that the royal family apparently. So the Queen is probably the most reserved of the foodies. The phrase I've heard is that she eats to live rather than lives to eat. So she has very basic plain food, whereas I gather other members of the family are a lot more adventurous in their cookery. But the Queen herself apparently is very, very reserved with what she eats, and is not the biggest fan of spice or garlic or any sort of those strong flavors or onions.
That is something that I didn't learn from watching The Crown, so thank you.
Oh, yeah. They don't tell you that. To be fair, I think of all the things in The Crown, that's probably like the most mundane. It's a good series. It doesn't need to go into too much detail about garlic. Okay, so what I'm just going to talk you through. What I'm going to do now is I've got my onions just in a big pan, and I want those in first. Those are the first thing that should go in, and I want them to get nice and browned and caramelized. At which point I can add in the ginger and the garlic. Ginger, a lot of people are scared to use the skin of it. You shouldn't be. There's absolutely no difference in the flavor or the taste. It is completely fine to eat the skin, so just use it and save yourself a job of peeling it. And I want this nicely minced up because you don't want to bite down a too big a chunk of ginger because it is quite strong, but it is delicious. And again, fair enough. The amounts and the of stuff that you have in here aren't overly crucial. There are weights and measurements on the recipe if you're so inclined, but curries really, so long as you have them in there, they'll be fine. So play around with them, experiment, and see what works to your level. I personally like a lot of garlic and a lot of ginger and a lot of onions, but others might have different preferences. But again, like, use the recipe just as a guideline and play around with it, have fun with it, and see what works for you. I think that'll be plenty for what I want there. I've got my onions sizzling quite nicely in the back. I'm just going to give them a stir. So at the moment, I should have said at the beginning,
Amazing. We've got a comment, Helena.
It's just a snack. Nice.
Phew. I'm relieved.
Yeah, so I've got obviously the pan with the onions here. I've also got a pot that's just got some water that's ready to boil for my rice later. And underneath, I have got my oven on set to about 230, 240. So really, really hot. I'm going to use that to roast off some stuff later and the bhajis as well. So I should have said that first. You've got to have a pan of water pretty much ready to go, and an oven as well. So I'll keep that camera on there. I've got my ginger. I'm now going to chop up my garlic. So at the moment, I'm actually making it for 4 people because I have got 4 mouths to feed with this. The recipe we posted has enough for 2. So if you need to, just scale it up. But I'm just showing you, you get the general idea. But again, curries, have a go, have a play with them. They're actually surprisingly difficult to mess up. So really just have a go. And it's also a really good way of just using up, this recipe especially uses a lot of store-cupboard ingredients. So it's a really good way of using up. If you don't have chickpeas, and you can use tinned beans. If you don't have tender stem broccoli, you can use something like cauliflower, and we'll talk through that later. But there are loads of different ways that you can substitute out stuff and still have like a perfectly good product at the end. Give that a crush, get the skins off.
Do you use a garlic crusher?
You can use garlic crusher.
I chop it all by hand.
I go by hand. I think that garlic crushers are great. So I'm just used to doing this. So whenever we use garlic in the kitchen, we obviously use a large quantity. And there was one function where I ordered, we were feeding about 100 people. And I ordered,
how big a garlic crusher would you need?
Well, I ordered about 5 kilos of, you can buy pre-peeled garlic from suppliers. So pre-peeled garlic, which would have saved me a big job, and it meant that I could have just got on with what I needed to do. And then I discovered that like an hour before I was due to be in the kitchen, the supplier sent the wrong one, and I had 5 kilos of completely fresh garlic that had to be all peeled and sliced by hand. So that took me about 2 hours to do. And that was very, very garlicky. Oh, there she is. Okay, doke. So my onions are browning off nicely. I'm going to shove it in.
I lost you for a bit there.
Yeah. The back, you better? So in that pan, I've got, oh, is Rose, I don't know, I don't think Rose is gone. Have I got the show to myself? I think I do. And in that pan, I've got onions, garlic, and ginger. That are just sauteing off now. The onions, no problem with getting a bit of brown color on them. The garlic and ginger, you probably don't want to get too much color on them. They can get a little bit bitter. They tend to. I'm going to add in. She's back. There we go. I'm going to add in that. There is just tomato puree.
Hello.
That there is tomato puree. That is just going to go in. Again, there are weights and measurements in the recipes. So use what you need to. But yet another store cupboard ingredient that you can kind of just use. And that I want to cook off a little bit. Just remove some of the bitterness that you can find if you have just a raw puree tomato. If you have a little taste of it, it's quite bitter. So cooking it out a little bit in the oil just helps take the edge off a little bit.
I got some feedback that apparently I paused in a very funny face for a long time.
Well, my face or your face?
No, my face. So I'm sorry if I look scary.
Of course, I'm going to add the most crucial part of curry, which is the curry powder. This, again, just a very simple, cheap ingredient. Got plenty of flavour.
Curry powder?
This one is hot because I quite enjoy spicy curries. But you can, of course, use whatever you want. You could work out your own blend or your own spices and stuff like that. That's absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. And again, it's another great thing to play around with curries and to experiment and see what you like. But equally, if you've got them already mixed up for you.
Are you going to add any other one?
For the moment, I'm just going to keep this super simple with curry powder. But it totally is open to experimentation and personal preference. This is the kind of curry that if I am pressed for time or I'm not too bothered about having the most sensational or the most I'm not trying to impress anyone, you know. It's still delicious and wonderful. I'm not putting it down at all, but it's also minimum effort, but maximum flavor with minimum effort, which is exactly what you want to do midweek, I think.
What is your favorite spice?
What's my favorite what?
Because mine's cumin.
Yeah, cumin's great.
Spice?
I love fennel seeds. Absolutely love fennel seeds. Beautiful sweet flavor. Look very similar to cumin seeds as well, but completely different flavor. So I've got coconut milk that's going in. That's the full fat stuff. As well as just a splash of water to rinse out whatever you're putting there. This is what makes it vegan. So you might traditionally use cream or butter or some other sort of dairy. But using coconut milk, this is completely vegan. So anyone can eat it.
Woo, shout out.
So I want to just give that a bit of a stir around and get that tomato kind of blended in there. So this right here, you let it cook out for 10 minutes, and that is a base curry sauce. There is so much variety you can have with that now. So many different things that can be done with it. And that is like a basic just curry sauce done, great flavor. Can be paired with any kind of veg or meat or fish even. You could poach in there, or whatever it is you eat. That is like a base curry sauce, and that will serve you for like a good chunk of what you want. I'm also going to add in some chickpeas, which will bulk it out and also nutritionally have a lot of protein in them. And I'm also, if I had it, and I don't, which is what my next point is going to go on to, we'd also add some tender stem broccoli, which I think is my favorite type of broccoli, because it is very easy to cook and very, very nice to eat. There's little prep you need to do to them. You can kind of choose them as they are. So if I had, add a bit more water. If I had tender stem broccoli, I would use that, and I would do the following. But I don't, so I'm going to be using a cauliflower, which, if you know your veg,
I love cauliflower.
You know your families of veg, cauliflower and broccoli, and even mustard are all part of stuff like kale as well. So these green leafy, well, not necessarily green, but leafy
mustard vegetables.
Yep, mustard are all part of what is called the brassica family. And you'll notice that if you ever eat them together, they have almost identical aftertastes, which is why you never really see a dish that has both broccoli and cauliflower on it, or with kale and cauliflower, or whatever. It has a very distinct aftertaste, which is very similar. And it's also, if you've ever ordered crispy seaweed from a Chinese takeaway, by the way, don't throw those parts away. Those make fantastic stocks and go in soups well. You can definitely eat the green parts of cauliflower blended up. They've got so much flavor in a soup as well, or in a stock. They're absolutely delicious. So don't throw those away. I'm going to use those later for something else. But for this recipe, all I need are these florets, which I'm just going to cut up into bite-sized pieces.
Amazing. Which is your favorite floret? We've got a question of either cauliflower or broccoli.
I don't know. It depends. It's kind of, it's asking like, what's my favorite food? Like it depends. It's the really unhelpful answer. I don't know. It depends how you cook them. I hate either one. Like I think they're both delicious. But one is just different, you know.
I think cauliflower has the edge for me. Roasted cauliflower is so good.
Yeah, roasted cauliflower, or any kind of brassica. So that's the thing with brassicas, you can with cauliflower, broccoli, kale, stuff like that. They can have very similar cooking methods, and they're all equally delicious. So if you like one, try another one, and you'll be surprised how similar it might taste once you've cooked it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to prep these up. So like Rosa said, we're going to roast these off. Now, what I was saying earlier about, I briefly mentioned when you order crispy seaweed in a Chinese takeaway restaurant, that is actually kale. Sorry to break the illusion. That is very much kale, not seaweed. And when you fry off brassicas like kale, or roast off like kale or cauliflower or broccoli, they all have a very sort of distinctive flavor. And it's that flavor that I think everybody loves. And this is no different. So it's almost, if you were to make this at home and roast it off yourself, that you'd almost think that you might be eating, if you close your eyes for a second, that you might be eating like crispy seaweed that you get at the Chinese takeaway, because it's got very similar notes that hit. And it's just, I think it's interesting to know about food that a lot of it is very similar. So in a pinch, like I'm doing now, this is supposed to be a tender stem curry, but I don't have tender stems, so cauliflower it is. It will be 95% the same. In terms of eating, there's not going to be a lot of difference. I've just covered them in a bit of oil, a bit of curry powder, and a bit of salt. I'm going to put those to one side for now, whilst I make my bhajis, because they're going to roast off in the same time. And the idea is that with this, you've got your sauce ready to go. You're going to be roasting off the cauliflower, you're going to be roasting off the bhajis, and you're going to be cooking your rice all at the same time, because they all take about the same amount of time. And then at the end, you just chuck it all together and you've got yourself a beautiful curry. So those are just prepped up and ready to go. Put them to one side. I'm going to make my bhajis now. So bhajis, traditionally a deep fried snack that you might have as a starter, perhaps in a restaurant. They are incredibly delicious, as I think most people know. But they are also very, very bad for you. Because they're often fried twice, once just to cook them all the way through at a low temperature, and then the second time just before they go out. See, when they go out, you know, if you've ever had sort of like a takeaway bhaji, they kind of go a bit soggy.
Yes,
yeah, but if you have them fresh straight from the restaurant, they're a lot nicer. It's because they fry them twice, so they're nice and crispy when they come out to you. Well, they should be. But we're gonna not go down the same route. It's gonna be a baked bhaji, so it's gonna taste exactly the same almost. Going to be a lot healthier, a lot less oil. We still use some oil, but nowhere near as much as if you were to deep fry. Deep frying is a technique that I cannot recommend you don't do at home. Like it really is a pain to deep fry at home. there's a lot of oil you need to use. You need to dispose of it correctly afterwards. It stinks up your kitchen if you don't have very good extraction. And it's also incredibly dangerous.
You can use it more than once, I guess.
Yeah, you can absolutely reuse the oil if you want. If you're using it but you have to be mindful that whatever you cook in it, that the oil will begin to taste of it. So if you're using it for the exact same dish every time, then it's absolutely fine. But I wouldn't reuse bhaji oil for anything other than bhajis, because a lot of the flavors and the spices that are in that are gonna flavor the oil. So you've really got to be careful with how you do that, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, again, similar to the curry itself, I'm just going to slice these up nice and finely in half, then in fine slices, so they all cook relatively quickly. You definitely don't want to be biting down on any raw onion. You can see I've gone for a mixture of white and red. That is purely because I had one white onion left and the rest were reds. There's not a huge difference in terms of flavor. I think it looks quite nice to have the contrast of those different onions. With all of these, all of these
red is my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, with all of these dishes today, the color of onion doesn't particularly matter. It is more just of an aesthetic thing when you cook them. They are slightly different when you eat them raw, but in terms of cooking them, it's more aesthetic. But for a curry, I don't think it matters at all, and I'd rather have a slightly miscolored one than one with no onion in. So don't be too worried. Again, like I was saying earlier, this is very much a group of recipes that there is not a hugely set recipe for. We posted one obviously for guidance, but please, 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 I encourage you strongly to not solely stick to that and have a play around and try out different ways of doing it, because I think you can learn so much more about cooking if you were to just give it a go and see what works for you, and then you'll learn about a lot more about how to cook things properly, or what your flavors you prefer are, stuff like that. I think you'll learn far more by just having a go yourself, using recipes as a guidance, and they're obviously a good place to start with, but as much as possible, just experiment and go off your own back. Again, falling back to curry powder, because why not? And you could totally put in a lot of different, a bit of oil as well, lots of different spices, lots of different flavors, but you really, really can't go wrong with curry powder, I don't think, because it's just so universal. It's really good. I'm also going to put in one of my favorite herbs. It's coriander. With that, some of the leaves.
Yes, it's a controversial one though.
Controversial because some people.
Even though I don't think it should be.
Well, it's because it's genetically, some people the way that they perceive the taste of coriander, apparently, yeah, it's very soapy. Which again, if you,
I would assume that most of us here wouldn't think that.
That should be a good question to ask.
Because we love falafels.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. If you could ask that, Rosa, is
yes or no to coriander? Let us know.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I'd like to
see
find
whether
out.
It's in our genes.
I absolutely love coriander, and I would happily.
Yeah, for sure. So let us know your opinions.
Happily use loads of it.
I don't understand the bad. Another question that we've got is about what your favorite appetizers, because samosas, spring rolls, bhajis, what is your ultimate favorite? I think I just personally, I love samosas. I think it's something to do with the fact that they rhyme with my name, but I've just always been such a fan. They just honestly are such a big part of my life.
I think actually that's a really good question. I mean, obviously you went traveling around India and some of the regions around there as well. I know that. So what kind of food did you find resonated with you most there? Was there a dish in particular that you remember or stands out a lot from your experience? I'm super interested to know. I really
loved all the things they would have for breakfast. Was so nice. We had idli, which is it's like rice with this like kind of curry sauce, but it was like a light one for breakfast. And it was so delicious. And then we also would have like dosas, which are also, do you remember, Ossie, we went and got dosas together once, and they are just so good. So if anyone doesn't know, like an Indian version of a pancake, but made out of chickpea flour, right? So
they come on like the really big plates, like they're like that big, and they absolutely absolutely delicious. So yeah, I'll just talk you through what I've done whilst we're chatting. That's another thing.
Oh yeah.
So what I've done is I've got my onions in there with the coriander and the spices and a bit of salt as well. Salt, very important in curries and in all cooking really, to enhance the flavor. So I've just added in gram flour. So this is flour that's made from dried chickpeas. There are weights and measurements in the recipe again, but I'm kind of going a bit by feel. So it's a flour that's made from chickpeas, so it's gluten free. You don't need to be allergic to gluten you don't have to avoid these if you are. So it's a gluten-free flour. Naturally.
The rest of the LJY.
Yeah, indeed. So naturally, it's a gluten-free flour. I'll just last it in there. And the skill with bhaji, and I'd say skill because it's something that, as much as a recipe will get you close, you kind of just need to get a feel from it. You want to make a bhaji batter, which is kind of just strong enough to hold together all the onions, but it will totally depend on how much liquid is in your onions, how like absorbent the flour is. Sometimes they can be very different depending on which brand you get. You can follow weights and measurements from a recipe, but ultimately you kind of just have to go by feel. So what I'm going to do is I've just got a little bit of water here, but I'm just going to trickle in and I'm just going to feel whether it's the right kind of consistency. If it's too wet, it's a tendency for it to get like quite stodgy. But equally, if it's too dry, it can feel a bit chalky and it would crumble rather than be nice and crisp. And dare I say, I think I've actually got it pretty spot on my first go. That was lucky.
Well, it's almost as if you're a professional chef.
I know. It's the thing with like bread as well. Bread making is something that is very much like, at the very basic level, you can really do it by feel. Obviously, if you get into more complex breads or sourdoughs or anything that is like an enriched dough, which has like eggs or butter or milk in it or whatever. But a basic white bread dough or just whole wheat bread dough, basic like bloomer loaf is very much, I think, it's far better to learn how to do that by feel than by following a recipe. Because once you understand what the correct texture is, you can then apply that to so many different things. Like the texture of a bread dough is a very sort of like relatable measurement that we can use whenever we talk about cooking by feel. It's a very sort of like standardized way of thinking about stuff. And I think it's, again, like it speaks to, as great as recipes are, and there is definitely a time and a place for them. I think like there is so much to be said for like just experimenting and having a go. Because the worst thing you do is you'll mess up your dinner, and that's not the biggest deal in the world. It's really not. So please, I encourage anyone watching to just have a go.
What if we're hungry?
If you're hungry, I mean, yeah, obviously you have to balance it to what you're doing and what your requirements are. You know, don't experiment if you've got sorry, me. Yep.
Oh, that sounds really noisy. Really
yeah,
loud.
Sorry. If you're obviously if you're cooking for loved ones or have a particular reason that you're cooking for a special occasion, then maybe don't leave it up to chance if you're not so confident. But if you're just cooking for yourself or a few close friends who don't mind, then really please just like I cannot encourage you enough to just experiment and try different things and see what works. So I'm just gonna.
I made the fried Bhajis, but yeah, I do really want to try the baked ones as well for health reasons.
So I'm just gonna scoop those into bhaji sized patties. Really, I'm not crushing them too much. I want like I'm placing them on the pan. I'm not squishing them down. I'm not squeezing them too close together. I still want a bit of space and to be quite a loose texture. They'll naturally hold together as they cook. So don't be too concerned. I'm going to just do 6 here for demonstration, but I've got plenty more batter. But otherwise we'll be here quite a while. And then the idea is that these are going to go in the oven alongside the cauliflower that we've prepped, or the tender stem broccoli if you're using that, or whatever kind of vegetable you're using, to roast off and get a bit of colour on at the same time as your rice is boiling, because they're about the same time frame. And then at the end, bring it all together, and then we'll go from there. So we've got my bhajis, and I've got my cauliflower. Just make sure that they have got enough oil so they won't stick. Bhajis still do require a bit of oil, otherwise they'll just be dry. So those are now going to go into the oven. I've got my oven at like 220, 230, so very, very hot. You wouldn't usually go this high for most cooking things, but I think it really pays.
Do you have a favorite dip to have with your bhaji?
I love like a yogurty dip.
I mean, I love mango chutney, lime pickle. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean chutney.
One of the things I found when I was in India that it's like, yeah, there's like they didn't really have like mango chutney anywhere I went, and I think there's just some like obviously certain things that have really got very popular in Western culture here.
Yeah, I think like
they actually don't have so widespread everywhere.
I think a lot of, I mean, the idea of a curry, like the word curry is a very sort of like westernized, anglicized version. Like it's not necessarily a particularly traditional way. I mean, it's you know, it's in those parts of the world where curry comes from, in quote marks, it's like, it's not really like a curry. It's just you're cooking the ingredients around you with what you've got around you. It's not like they've set out to make a dish that you want to eat whenever. It's actually like, it's just the way they cook. Like they'd see the way that we cook lamb and peas together, say, is a really poor example, but you understand, like, or whatever. That's just because lamb grows here and so do peas, and so we cook them together. It's not necessarily like, or any example of any kind of dish. Like it's not like a style of cooking. It's more just it's very much a globalized way of doing it, and one that appeals to a lot of palates. Which there's nothing wrong with that at all. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but you know, we have to remember that our version of, or what we might be attuned to, is not necessarily bit of lemon juice in there as well, just freshens it up, isn't necessarily like traditional, which isn't, again, not a bad thing, but just worth being cognizant of, I think. Yeah, so I've got my,
for sure.
Hello? I don't know.
Hi.
Screen's got a bit dark. Tech problems.
Oh no.
Hello. I have the stream again.
Hello.
You there?
Hello. Can you hear me? Okay, so
I think Rose has gone missing again.
Can you not hear me? Ossie?
Oh.
Hi. I can't tell if it's my internet or your internet that's really dodgy. We have a couple more questions. Well, statements. Helen is letting us know about the delicious kale and cauliflower mac and cheese Pret do. Is anyone else missing the basic London cuisines of pret a manger? Because I really miss those dark chocolate cookies. Is that a vegan one, Helen, or a normal one? Amazing. And I think we've lost Ossie. I think Ossie thought it was me, but maybe we have lost Ossie. So we will wait for him to come back. There he is. And Eve wants to know the best kitchen utensil to wash up, which I think is a very, very strange question. As in, I think anything that is a spoon-like shape is quite bad because you often get it thrown right back at you, which is never fun when you go to wash a spoon and it just goes flying back at you.
I'm back.
Ossie, we've got you back.
I'm back. Yay.
Yeah.
Is there still a delay?
You thought it was me, but it was you.
I don't know. I think I don't know what it is. My internet's usually fine, but I don't know. I have no idea. I'm back. Anyway, don't panic. The best kitchen utensil to wash up.
It's okay.
I think. Well, I can tell you
I said anything that isn't a spoon.
What's wrong with spoons? No, the worst. I tell you.
They fly back at you when you do it.
Oh, come on. Come on. I'll tell you, the worst kitchen utensil to wash up is either a really, really fine sieve, because they're so tricky to get everything out of those little holes, or a potato ricer, which is one of my least favorite kitchen utensil. Actually, and garlic crushers, very difficult to wash up. So I don't know. I think a knife is definitely the easiest to wash up.
A food processor, I find quite annoying. Like, not really that it's like particularly. I mean, it's just like things get into little bits of the cracks, and like it just is so much effort to like every time you use it. It's like there's so much effort, so many different parts to it.
It's difficult. I mean, it blew me away when I first went into a professional kitchen that there are pot washers there. See, for as much as we say, like, obviously, you know, you have to keep tidy. Have to keep tidy, and you have to keep on top stuff, which is absolutely correct and true. But in professional kitchens, we do use pot washers, and they are very often the most important part of the kitchen, I would say. Because if we don't have a pot washer, or if you have a bad one on that day, then everything, but so much of the kitchen relies on the pot washing, because it just makes everything go so much quicker if it's there. So it's a vital part that's often overlooked. I don't think it should be. Right, we've just got about 3 minutes left on our rice and everything else. Yeah, go on.
Ooh, exciting.
Exciting.
I just was going to say that we've got another weird question from Eve, and I think
wash up with
my
a sponge
answer, washing up with a sponge or a brush. I've only recently got one of the sponges on one of the holder ones, which like foams up. I found that very exciting. New.
These are great.
Yeah, I'd never used to have those. They're so good.
Yeah, I think with sponges, like, stuff tends to get clogged in them sometimes. I think with brushes, you can easily. I prefer brushes. I think sponges there's too many maintenance issues with them, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Did you need me to time it, Ossie, or was everything fine?
I put a timer on I found another timer, but I've got it on just above me here, just in case, because I was anticipating some kind of.
Oh, phew.
I would hate if it went down and then I was waiting on your timer, then it might have gone a bit funny. But there you go. So yeah, to finish off, whilst stuff's been going down, I've been productive in the meantime. I've got my lemon ready to be juiced, and a bit more fresh coriander, which I'm just going to stir through everything at the end. Did we ever get a response as to yay or nay for coriander, by the way?
We didn't. And like normally it's something that people are very passionate about. So I was really surprised. Whenever you watch this, write it in the comments. Yeah, I really am a massive coriander fan. And we do have another question.
Go for it.
MasterChef or Bake Off?
Oh, I'm not a massive fan of Bake Off, I have to say. I don't know what it is about it.
How come?
Maybe, I think, well, for one, Paul Hollywood kind of weirds me out a little bit. Oh, time up.
Fair.
Sorry.
Yay!
For the rice.
Isn't it nice not having to stress this week? There's no rush.
I know, exactly. I'm going my own time. I've just done enough rice here for one portion just to demonstrate.
Oh,
Coriander is the devil's food.
We finally got a response, but it's not the answer we wanted.
Oh dear. I love coriander. I think it's so fragrant. It's so fresh.
I'm going to hide that comment right now because I'm censoring that. Sorry, Mia.
Very nice. So I got my rice is cooked. My sauce is pretty much ready to go. The Bhajis are pretty much there as well. I take a little peek at them. I might just give them one more minute. Again, you kind of have to eyeball it. The rice timing is pretty much spot on, but everything else just kind of have a little look and see. Well, no, to be fair, those are looking pretty good, I'd say. I'll just show them to you. So those are the Bhajis there. Very hot.
Oh, wow. Wait, one sec. Let me get your... Wow.
Yeah, yep, so I got Bhajis up there with the sauce. Very hot pan. Sorry, that's why I'm being quite limited with it. And I have got my cauliflower that has lovely, nicely roasted off. You can see there's a lot of color on that. Color is flavor with that. So it's really good. That's got nice color, and that just goes into your curry sauce.
How long was it in there for?
About 10 minutes. So this again, you'll kind of need to, depends on how big you cut them and how, but cauliflower and broccoli and similar things, they cook in a very, very short amount of time actually. So it's not too difficult.
That's why chickpeas and cauliflower was a good combination idea to be quick.
Absolutely. This recipe is with speed in mind and easiness in mind. So we've got everything here really. We may as well start to plate up.
And we've got another message again about coriander from Mia. And she thinks that we can't hide her, but to be honest, I do have the power to delete her comments, so I can hide her. But it's a shame. Dina has come to back us up and saying, if you don't like coriander, you aren't eating it properly. Sorry, Mia, you'll have to find someone else to agree with you.
I think it's quite good if you're not eating it properly.
I also am very intrigued to know how Dina thinks the right way to eat it is. Would be good to know. And Eve, I'm afraid I'm not gonna turn this into bullying. She wants us to block Mia.
Oh dear.
I don't think we will block her entirely, only blocking out her comments about coriander.
We respectfully disagree with you.
And look at it go there, we've got it right there. Respectfully, yes.
So lemon juice is always a fantastic way of finishing up curries or any kind of similar rich spicy food. It just livens up a little bit. I'm also going to put a little bit over my Bhajis as well. It's kind of a secret ingredient of mine with curries. It really adds some freshness. Really nice just to liven them up a bit, make them a little bit less stale, keep them a bit fresh. And a good healthy portion into your bowl along with your rice.
That looks so good, Ossie.
Thank you very much. And of course, a couple of Bhajis, which I'll just pick up, which taste amazing, if I do say so myself. One Bhaji, two Bhaji. There we go. A bit more coriander. And that's just a really simple curry, rice, Bhajis, easy.
Wow.
Very simple. There you go.
Incredible.
Delish. Bah.
Wow. Okay, and we'll look forward to seeing. Some pictures of that maybe as well.
Of course, yeah. I'll get those done.
Dina thinks coriander should be boiled and by itself, and Mia wants to know what type of milk it is. It's coconut milk, isn't it, Ossie?
Yeah, coconut milk. So completely vegan.
And what's your favorite vegan milk?
I mean, I'm not vegan very much. People will know that. My favorite milk, which happens to be vegan, I don't drink it because it is vegan, is coconut milk, because you can use it in so many different things. I've tried different nut milks before. I'm not a fan of soy milk at all in any shape or form. I just don't like it.
I love oat milk.
Again, like I don't know. I don't know if I'm entirely sold on it. I understand why people drink it, but for me, the taste of those kinds of milks is just there's something just slightly off about them, which I can't put my finger on. But my favorite milk substitute, like oat milk, which happens to be vegan, is coconut milk. So make of that what you will.
And Eve loves coriander milk, which I've yet to try. I'm excited.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Amazing. And on that note, maybe we will wrap this up.
Yeah. So that is your curry, your rice, and your Bhajis.
Thank you.
Done very simply, very deliciously. Thanks for joining, guys. I'll see you around.
Yummy.
I'll see you guys around. Have a good one,
everyone. Yeah.
Bye.
Well, stay tuned for everything else that LJY is up to. Always keep up to date on our social media. Bye.
Bye.